Day 2. Identifying the hidden patterns that hold you back. Yesterday, we explored the idea of personal responsibility and how meaningful change begins when we stop waiting for circumstances to improve and start focusing on the aspects of life that we can influence. While that realization is powerful, it often leads to another important question. If we genuinely want to move forward, why do we sometimes seem to get in our own way? Most people can identify at least one area of life where they have struggled to make consistent progress. It may be a health goal that never seems to last beyond a few weeks, a business idea that remains trapped in the planning stage, or a dream that has been postponed so many times that it has almost become part of the background noise of daily life. We often assume that these unfinished goals are the result of external circumstances, a lack of time, insufficient resources, or simple bad luck. While those factors can certainly play a role, they rarely tell the whole story. More often than we realize, our lives are shaped by patterns that operate quietly beneath the surface of conscious awareness. These patterns influence how we think, how we react, and how we make decisions. Because they are familiar, we rarely question them. In fact, many of them have been with us for so long that they feel like an inseparable part of who we are. Imagine driving the same route to work every day for several years. Eventually, the journey becomes automatic. There are moments when you arrive at your destination and barely remember the details of the drive because your mind was operating on autopilot. Human behavior functions in much the same way. Many of our actions, reactions, and decisions are not the result of deliberate thought, but of habits that have been repeated so often that they require very little conscious effort. This automatic nature of human behavior is not necessarily a problem. In many ways, it is essential. Without it, even the simplest tasks would require enormous mental energy. The difficulty arises when the patterns running on autopilot no longer serve the life we are trying to create. Consider the person who dreams of improving their health. They may genuinely desire change and fully understand the benefits of exercise and proper nutrition. Yet every evening, they find themselves making the same choices they promised to avoid. Another person may speak passionately about starting a business, but never takes the first meaningful step. Someone else may want stronger relationships, yet repeatedly avoids difficult conversations that could improve them. From the outside, these situations can appear confusing. Why would someone act against their own interests? The answer often lies in the hidden patterns that guide behavior. Many of these patterns develop gradually over the course of our lives. Some originate in childhood, while others emerge from significant experiences that shape the way we view ourselves and the world around us. A person who experiences repeated criticism may become overly cautious about taking risks. Someone who has faced rejection may develop a tendency to avoid situations where failure is possible. Over time, these protective behaviors begin to feel normal. What originally served as a defense mechanism eventually becomes a limitation. One of the reasons these patterns are difficult to recognize is that they rarely present themselves as obstacles. Instead, they often disguise themselves as logic. A person may tell themselves they are waiting for the perfect moment when, in reality, they are afraid of failing. Another may spend months gathering information and conducting research, believing they are preparing responsibly, when the truth is that they are using preparation as a way to avoid action. Someone else may lower their ambitions and convince themselves they are being realistic when they are actually protecting themselves from disappointment. The human mind is remarkably skilled at creating explanations that allow us to remain comfortable. Unfortunately, comfort and growth rarely travel together for very long. If you look back at the most important periods of growth in your own life, you will probably notice that they were accompanied by a degree of uncertainty. Learning a new skill, changing careers, moving to a new place, starting a relationship, launching a project, or pursuing a meaningful goal all require us to step beyond what is familiar. There is always a period where confidence has not yet caught up with commitment. The challenge is that most people interpret discomfort as evidence that something is wrong. In reality, discomfort is often evidence that something is changing. When we remain within the boundaries of what feels safe and predictable, our lives tend to produce predictable results. While there is nothing wrong with stability, there is a significant difference between stability and stagnation. Growth requires us to tolerate a certain level of uncertainty and to continue moving forward even when we cannot see the entire path ahead. This is why awareness is such an essential part of personal development. Before we can change our habits, we must first notice them. Before we can challenge limiting beliefs, we must identify them. Before we can create a different future, we must understand the invisible forces that are shaping our present. The purpose of today's chapter is not to criticize yourself for mistakes you have made or opportunities you may have missed. Every person carries patterns that no longer serve them. The goal is simply to become more observant. As you move through the rest of today, pay attention to the moments when you hesitate. Notice the situations where you instinctively choose comfort over growth. Observe the excuses that appear when an important task feels difficult or uncomfortable. Listen carefully to the explanations you give yourself when you postpone action. You may discover that the challenge is not a lack of ability, knowledge, or opportunity. You may discover that the challenge is a pattern, and patterns, unlike circumstances, can be changed. The moment you become aware of a pattern, you create the possibility of choosing differently. That choice may seem small at first, but every significant transformation begins with a moment of awareness. Before a person changes their habits, they notice them. Before they change their thinking, they question it. Before they create a new life, they recognize the invisible patterns that have been shaping the old one. Today is about developing that awareness, not with judgment, but with curiosity, not with frustration, but with honesty. Because the more clearly you understand the patterns that have guided your life up to this point, the more capable you become of creating new ones that will carry you toward the future you want. Reflection. Questions. 1. What goal have you repeatedly started but struggled to maintain? 2. What behaviors tend to appear whenever progress becomes difficult? 3. In what areas of your life do you choose comfort over growth? 4. What excuses do you use most often when avoiding action? 5. If an outside observer watched your daily habits, what patterns would they notice? Daily action step. Throughout today, become a student of your own behavior. Carry a notebook or use your phone to record moments when you avoid discomfort, delay action, or react automatically. Do not judge what you observe. Simply collect information. At the end of the day, review your notes and look for recurring themes. Your goal is not to change the patterns yet. Your goal is to see them clearly. Success affirmation. I observe my thoughts, habits, and behaviors with honesty and curiosity. The more aware I become, the more power I gain to create positive change.